You know, every single time I post a link on Facebook, I get a message from Meta that says, "Would you like to pay to advertise this? You could reach X amount more people, blah, blah, blah." These are the same people who censored that many of my memes in hindsight over the decades and given me that many months long bans. I'm not giving them a cent. So Meta can get stuffed. No, they do not make cover art like this anymore. I am, by the way, leaving on this page because I'll wait for a few people to come in before I start the stream proper. That sort of thing. Not that I'm aiming for a lot of people. If I get like, I don't know, 3, I guess that's good numbers, right? It's an impromptu stream on like a Wednesday night here at like 8 p.m. Oh, you have to forgive me as well. I have a platter, cured meats and all that, and a bottle of red wine with me, and an icy cool drink because I've just come back from a 6K hike with the dogs, who have just eaten. And despite having just eaten, both dogs are hovering next to me like Oliver Twist. "Oh, please, sir, may we have some? I'm ever so hungry, sir." Like, yeah, you're really suffering, you two. I mean, if they annoy me too much, I can just Hassan Pike at them, right? Just pull out the old Tesla coil. No. So, side note before the stream starts. So, I was chatting with North and Kaifa off air, prior to recording our other episodes, and you guys get a lot more of the salt in the episodes that actually happens off stream, like when we're talking to one another privately, and no particular reason, it just happens to work out that way. And I was complaining because I was so sick of talking about things that are going wrong, but I feel a bit trapped in that place where it's like, got to talk about the things that aren't working, because if you don't, then who's going to, and how do you get that wide appeal? And I wasn't particularly worried about financial numbers or anything like that, because I get told a lot, like how much of a moneymaker it is, which, by the way, I can give you some of the figures right now. Ta-da! That's the Outer Circle's current earnings. It's not to make money at all. In fact, I'm down on subscribers because I've announced, that I'm moving away from 3.0 content because it just doesn't interest me. For Horus Heresy. Oh God, the window just it's jumping from screen to screen now. I've got 3 monitors. 2 of them sit above the third. But yeah, no, it's not to make money. And the thing was, right, I had to talk about this content, this heresy stuff, and I had a lot of people saying, "Why won't you cover it? Why won't you cover it?" And so I give them an answer, and then I get people in the comments go, "Well, now that you're not covering it, I don't want to listen to you anymore." It's like, okay, cool, that's fine. You're not beholden to listen to me. If I'm not delivering the content you like, that's awesome. Go find someone who will. I am more than happy for you to do that, and there is no ill will born towards you whatsoever. But you don't need to announce the departure. I understand why you might be leaving. In any case, though, I want to talk about the things that are interesting me. And right now, 3.5 is having a bit of a resurgence in my mind. I've been making miniatures for a old school Thousand Sons army, but using the new sculpts, all 3D printed, because I'm not paying what these things cost anymore. I spent decades paying full price. I bought all the Primarchs legitimately off Forge World. I paid all those markups, legit Mastodon, all this sort of stuff. I've got videos, old videos on the channel of me back in 2016 opening 2 Betrayal at Celts and a Burning of Prospero with upgrade kits of chests and helmets for all 90 Power Armored Marines in those boxes. All bought legit in the Forge World Games Workshop boxes being opened on stream. I paid my dues. And that was just one army. And I'm not going to pay any more. It's just absurd, the prices now. It's going up about 5 times faster than inflation is. I can't keep up with that kind of spending, even in a decent job. So I'm going back to the things I like, and the things that I liked was Chaos Space Marines, and in particular, the last edition that actually really looked after them and understood what they were. Because it didn't just artificially create its own separate codexes and just said, here you are, here is the approved list of units that are from the, Emperor's Children trademark range. It went, here's what we recommend you use, and here's how you can play them if you want to be thematic, but we'll leave the rest up to you, and I love that. So I'm going to dive a little bit into the book, and I've spoken about this book showcased a bit in the past on the channel. As you know, I've got the hardcover, not the hardcover, they were soft cover back then, and black and white inside, except for a few art pages. But I am going to go into the book today, and I've got it in PDF format instead of me opening the book on camera for you, because, well, it's a lot harder for you to see it, and it looks like crap compared to a PDF. So this is back when, Goblin Green was still in vogue for a start, but it gives you an idea of the vintage. Like, this is the same Rhinos and Predator and Chaos Bike models that we still have today. I mean, the Khorne Berserkers in here. This book, by the way, is from, I think, 2003, and it should say it. One of these pages. Oh, geez. 2002. 2002, right there. So, it gives you an idea of the vintage. These models were already a couple years old when they hit this book. The bikes, the Rhinos, the Predators, the Land Raider, the Chaos White Metal Dreadnought, all of that. So it gives you an idea of the vintage of some of the models that are in here. Emperor's Children, Noise Marines that have just been replaced at Games Workshop in the last year, yet they're this vintage. The Berserkers replaced, 2 years ago? Yep, that's the same kit that's just got replaced 2 years ago that are charging how much for? Yeah. So I judge them a bit harshly on those sort of things, and I promise I won't deliver much salt in this episode. So, especially the drunker I get. So it talks about, your overviews and your army lists and all that kind of thing that you expect in your codex, and the art just fucking slays it in here. I think it's safe to say. Hello to everyone in the chat, by the way. I will try and answer questions and thingies that you ask as we go, or talk about particular topics if I can. I'm all for that. Just beware, obviously, I can't be constantly looking at the chat. That's what super chats and that are for. Not that I expect you to pay or anything like that. I'm not one of those channels, obviously. I'm not Darkside Phil or something. But I can only answer so many questions, which I think you understand. But yeah, the art in this book, man, so much of it is timeless. Like, you look at it now and you're like, that still holds up, or it's better than the stuff we get now. And pictures like this, to me, is just, why was there never a model of this guy? Like, they've made John Blanche miniatures like that Sister of Battle, the classic picture, with the 1 foot up on the pile of skulls holding the bolt pistol. They've done ones like that, or the Black Templar Castellan off the front cover of like the 3rd edition rulebook. When you've got like sculpts artwork like this that I wish was being sculpted. Oh, it's just so good. It looks better than anything they're sculpting today. I'm sorry. They would find a way to ruin it, I'm sure. And in here, like the way the Raptors look, this is World Eaters, Raptor, Horus Heresy era. So you can see the style of things has changed somewhat over the last couple of decades. Cutting through the Raven Guard in this particular image. The beaky helmets are a bit different back then. They were really more of a beak-y helmet. But, it holds up. The Warp, the Maelstrom, all that kind of thing. Yep, loved it. Lots of fluff at the start. Oh, this is actually not from this book. This is from Battlefleet Gothic's real book, this artwork. And it's Abaddon's Planet Killer just cutting its way through an Emperor-class battleship during the 12th Black Crusade, the Gothic War. Yeah, holds up. Battlefleet Gothic's a game that I absolutely adore, and I've 3D printed multiple fleets for it. I got my friend Colin's fleet here. I really need to mail him some miniatures. Sorry, Colin, I've held your miniatures for ages now, and it's just laziness and getting sidetracked why I haven't mailed them. I'm so sorry, mate. but I printed a fleet and painted a bunch of existing ships for both those fleets, like including Gloriana's. My big Thousand Suns fleet, I did a video showcase on that a while back, you would have seen if you're a long-time viewer of the channel. And it's a game near and dear to my heart. But it's because it's near and dear to my heart that I really don't want Games Workshop to touch it, because when they make a specialist game, they tend to do a pretty good job on the first edition of them. It's when they come back and fiddle with them that it turns pear-shaped. Titanicus, good game. Legions Imperialis plays okay. Necromunda, good game. Blood Bowl, good game. The problem is when they come and circle back on them, they tend to get Games Workshop fingers, so dick fingers. Everything they touch, they fuck. And yeah, I don't know that I can take that Battlefleet Gothic. They already ruined Man of War. Abaddon's Chosen, another classic bit of... This is Adrian Smith artwork. And Adrian Smith did Chronicles of Hate, a bunch of the old... a bunch of the old artworks for one of those like classic army sets that you would have seen, the old Orcs and Goblins cover, for example, with like the Night Goblins on the front, that was all his work. The Chaos Warriors from 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy, that's all him. Late 6th edition Fantasy, all that kind of stuff. And this here, like seeing, you've got like basically you've got followers of the different gods are the Chosen of Abaddon. And these are not Primarchs. These are chosen Chaos Space Marines. And they are just sick. Like, the models can't live up to this. Like, the Master of Possession kind of starts to come close to the guy on the left here. They all have names, by the way. I'm not going to try and match the names to the characters, but like the snarling demonic visage here kind of reminds me of what was done in Horus Heresy with Zardu Layak and his band, the Blade Slaves. But yeah, just cool stuff. Like, they don't make art like this anymore, because the art they draw now, it's all miniatures you can buy. They don't want to show you miniatures in the books that they look better in black and white than color. I've seen many of these images colorized. They look good, but there's just something more grainy. It's like watching a noir film, like watch Blade Runner in black and white, and it's actually just as impressive, if not more impressive, than it is watching Blade Runner in color. Can't explain why, it just is. Something just gritty about it, something that feels right in the black and white artwork. Yeah, just the style here, like modern days, they will just put a picture of the Guilliman model as he looks on his box artwork in the book. They don't do that in this era. They're just like, hey, here's just some cool art that someone drew and we put it in this book. I love that about this era. Okay, so special rules. I should really stop eating before I talk. I apologize. So, Marks of Chaos has its own thing because you get 5 marks to pick from. Obviously, Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, and Chaos Undivided. You've got your Chaos Psychic Powers, which is you literally pick powers, and it's kind of like Warhammer Fantasy Battle style, and you'll see how that works later. You summon demons onto the battlefield, and you need icons if you want to do it well. And it's really, really good when you have units which are the number of their god, and they have icons for summoning. Instability is basically failing leadership checks after losing close combat, and essentially damage. Demonic instability is a bad thing. And demon weapons in this time period, very interesting rules. So when you're using these demon weapons, they just cost a lot of points, basically. But you only get to have a single one of them in your army. There was no drawbacks to them at this time. It was just, they're all two-handed weapon type things. If it's, sorry. Okay, let me reword that. If they are a two-handed weapon, you don't get to pair them with anything else, right? Just common sense sort of stuff that they throw in there, right? Super chat from Bryce McEwen, $5. Last time Games Workshop gave a shit about Chaos, I miss it. I'm just old enough to have seen this on the shelf, but not old enough to have it. Also, this dollars used to be a beer. It did. Thank you for that. I assure you the red wine next to me will get consumed. This book, by the way, was 35. It was the most expensive codex at the time it came out. It was 35 back in 2002 for this book, but it's a big codex for the time. Yeah, so the demon weapons, very, very simple how they work. There was no negatives. In later editions, it would work that if you rolled to hit and you rolled a 1 to hit, you hit yourself with the demon weapon, right? But then if you played something like Grey Knights, you could have Inquisitors take demon weapons, and it was not just one. They could take multiple demon weapons, dual wield them, and they had no negative consequence. For some reason, the Inquisition never got harmed by demon weapons, but Chaos Space Marines did. This was from the... who was it? I think it was Gav Thorpe did the 4th edition version of their codex, and it was Phil Kelly that did the 6th edition version of their codex. Both were shithouse for different reasons. But yeah, that was something I loathed, because I remember sitting there as a Chaos player watching a generic Imperial Inquisitor carving through my Chaos Space Marines in 5th edition 40k, going, what is this shit? As he uses twin demon weapons with just perks, just positives to taking them. I was like, so why would you not ever take anything else if it's just giving you positives? Yeah, I had some... that's probably where my anger with this system started. Definitely 5th edition. That Grey Knight bullshit. So you can blame Grey Knights for the creature I've become today. Now, in any case... there is like a perils type thing with the mastery, and it was just a cool, like, it will almost never affect you, so don't worry about it. Now, here's where things get fun. War gear, the Chaos Space Marine Armory. And by the way, if people like this episode, I will come back and I'll do probably the Tyranids next, and then I'll probably do like Guard or Space Marines after that. I'll definitely do both if people like these streams. I'll go back and look at these old books. But in the Chaos Space Marine Armory, yep, you've got your Marks of the Gods, and you see it's 2 points values. The points value on the left is going to be your characters. So if your character buys it, it's this many points to put it on them. If a regular dude buys it, you notice this is on a per individual basis. That's because certain marks are worth more when you give them to a character than if you give them to infantry or like a basic dude. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Because like a Mark of Nurgle giving additional toughness is going to mean a lot more on a model who has multiple wounds than on a model with a single wound. So that stuff's, pretty normal when you think about it, right? Same with the weaponry, like a chain fist when it's being swung by, weapon skill 5 character with multiple wounds and a ton of attacks versus... if he's swinging with, I don't know, a chainsword. Why not? Or if you put that same chain fist on just a regular Terminator armored dude and he's swinging with 2 attacks versus like 5 attacks. It's a big difference, right? And if you start comboing these like Mark of Khorne for additional attacks plus chain fist for additional attacks, that's going to be a crazy amount of attacks coming out of that character. It's going to wreck any vehicle it touches in this era. So, okay. Important, right? The way that's how it works. Now, you'll also see in here that you don't just have war gear, but you've got psychic abilities and equipment lower down the page. You have demonic gifts, which are very special because once you spend a certain amount of points on them, things get interesting. You got special rules. You can buy special rules in this era, so veteran skills. This was the book where universal special rules were introduced. So, super chat from Bryce McEwen for $2. Had someone tell me this codex sucks the other day. That's fine. They're allowed to have their opinion, even if it's wrong. So in veteran skills, you got to obviously take these. Again, pointed based on who had it. Again, character, going to get a lot more value out of Furious Charge than a regular Space Marine is. Same with Infiltrate, right? But there's a problem here. Yes, there are abilities and upgrades you can give, and there's also points values listed up the front here for all of the gods, Khorne, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Tzeentch. as well as generic dim weapons and vehicle upgrades. Oh, I miss these upgrades. But Chaos Lords and other characters have different points values of equipment they can purchase. And in addition to that, the way Demon Prince work, oh, another cool Adrian Smith piece of artwork. God damn. And again, another model they never made. Yeah. Fuck the art rocks from this era. So, I'll get back into the war gear in a minute, but here we go. Chaos Lord may not have more than 150 points of war gear and demonic gifts. This total may not be more than 100 points of demonic gifts. So you can't just take everything from the main list and from your gods, because there are gifts of your gods as well as gifts in your main list. You've got a maximum point of them that you can hit. And this comes into play when it comes to demonhood. So if I find where it is in the book, and it's been a while since I had a really good read of this, but in Demon Prince, it'll come to me somewhere. But Demon Princes kicks in basically based on, you know what, when I see it pop up, I'll bring it back up. Demon Prince kicks in basically based on the amount of points you've spent. So once you hit a certain number of points, it's basically considered like you are so mutated, you've become a Demon Prince, which is pretty cool way of doing it. And you didn't have a Demon Prince stat line. What you have is the Chaos Lord stat line, but it's so modified by the equipment and rules you've put on him that he's become that. So a lot of these are sort of the standard things you'd expect, like Chain Fists, Common Bolters, all that kind of stuff. But where it gets interesting is, again, those demonic gifts. So demonic armor is the chaos equivalent of like Artificer armor. Demonic aura equivalent to like a Space Marine's invulnerable save. Difference with Chaos and Space Marines in the era was it was very rare to see a 4-up invulnerable. Remember, in this time period, Storm Shields were a 4+ invulnerable, not a 3+ invulnerable, for those who remember how the game played. It's different again today, so ignore today's rules. And a free chat from Bryce McEwen. Once again, thank you. Free from Google, enjoy the hash brown. Thanks, mate. So back then, a 5+ invulnerable was okay, because the best invul in the game was basically a 4+ invulnerable save, except for the Shadow Field on the Dark Eldar Archon of this time period, which was a rare one-off thing. And if he rolled a single one, he lost the Shadow Field. So it was like a big trade-off on Dark Eldar Archons in this time period. So 5-up invul was decent. It's not like now where, and the only Marines who had 4-up invuls, apart from Storm Shields, was a Chapter Master who had a 4-up, and the Chaplain who had the Rosarius. So it was one of the reasons you took the Chaplain in this time period was because of the 4+ invulnerable save. Made him very decent, because he was tanky when, Librarians were not tanky. So, demonic chains, things like that, mainly be used by a model designated to be the vessel of a greater demon. When rolling for possession, the chains allow each attempt to be re-rolled once, because you sacrificed characters. If you had the character rule, you could pick that character in any unit in your army, and you just replaced him, if you rolled and you were successful, with a demon, a greater demon. That's how you summon them onto the battlefield. So it was like, one turn he was a unit sergeant, the next turn, bloodthirster. Surprise, motherfucker. And demonic chains improved the chance of pulling that. It was fun. It was a fun special rule, because it was like, yeah, you got to summon the demon wherever you wanted on the table, which could be really handy. There's no scattering or anything like that. But you lost your squad sergeant and the points you'd invested in him. And if you'd lost all your squad sergeants, you might be the choice of like picking something like your Chaos Lord or your Chaos Lieutenant or your Chaos Sorcerer would be the one that took the, that you said, oh, geez, I've got to sacrifice this character instead. That's a big trade-off. Demonic Essence, additional wounds, demonic fire. Yes, you can get shooting weapon, things like that. Demonic flight, you grow little bat wings, all the cool stuff. The demonic stuff and demonic stature. Now, this is the big one. This is the one that you're going to take when you basically becoming a Demon Prince. So you'll take demonic stature, so you get +1 strength, +1 toughness baked in. Now you're a monstrous creature. And You ignore armor saves by default because you're a monstrous creature now, so involves only against your attacks, even though you're only strength 5 to start with. But remember, you can stack this with Demonic Essence for an extra wound, Demonic Resilience for an extra point of toughness, Demonic Strength for an extra point of strength. Now you're up into the 6s. Your weapon skill is at 6, your ballistic skill drops down to 3 because demons just shoot worse because reasons. It's just a long-term thing Games Workshop's done. It's not the end of the world. The big kicker though is you can only wield demon weapons. So Axes of Khorne, Plague Swords, that kind of thing. Combat Orders, close combat weapons, or great weapons. Which is a bit weird, you think, because basically what they're saying is, like, the most generic of weapons you still get, but otherwise, that's it. Super chat from James Wood, $10. Is 3.5 as narrative friendly as 2nd edition? Because I've quit modern 40k for the narrative appeal of 2nd. They're different. So 3.5 is very narrative friendly for 3rd and 4th edition 40k. Remember, these editions were designed for larger scale games. Like 1750 is a really comfortable points value for these editions. 2nd edition, in my personal opinion, plays very clunky at those points levels. That's why 2nd edition became 3rd edition 40k, because at the time, people were trying to play bigger and bigger armies, and the company was trying to incentivize this. So they simplified the game system down, very much similar to what they did moving from 7th edition 40k to 8th edition 40k, where it was like, okay, the rules are easier now. So you lost a little bit of narrative depth in the core rules of the game system, but when it comes to the codexes of the period, like this one in particular, this one, Guard, Nids, Marines, Eldar, Grey Knights, and Sister Battle, all from this time period, all really, really good codexes. The Tau are good in this edition, so are Necrons. I can't remember if the Necrons got a codex this edition, but the codex they had from 3rd edition came right at the end of it, and it was solid because of the way Gauss weapons worked. And because Satan were not Pokemon back then, Monolith was insanely hard to kill and very, very strong. Resorbs were amazing. Yeah. Basically, the books are really good from this time period. Just Chaos 3.5 came first out of all of those books, apart from the Necron one. So people got really shitty when their 3rd ed armies with very little flavour went up against this thing and were just getting trounced. When they got their own equally good books, like Tyranids, for example, suddenly they were no longer complaining about Chaos Space Marines, but they never took it back. They still complain to this day, some people from that time period. And yet it was the last good book Chaos ever got. So yeah, anyway, demon stuff, you can load yourself up on demon stuff. It's a lot of fun because you basically turn your guy into a demon prince by choice. You don't have to, it's by choice. Now, psych abilities, these are fun. Doombolt, nothing particularly special about it, but remember, that is a heavy bolter at half range baked into your psyker. Decent at the time because not a lot of power armor back in this time period. That will kill Eldar, Dark Eldar, Guard, Tau. The only thing it's not really killing is Necrons and Space Marines. Like, otherwise, solid power. Gift of Chaos. Yeah, this is a fun one. So pick an enemy model within 2 inches of the sorcerer, so you got to get close to pull this off. And then take a psychic test, right? If you pass, so you roll your leadership, basically. Don't roll double 6s or double 1s. Then roll a d6. And if you roll over their toughness, and it's their base toughness, not modified, if they're on a bike, anything like that, as it says, or a natural 6, then you just turn them into a chaos spawn. It's hard to pull off, but when you do, it's so funny. Just go up to someone. Do remember, in this time period, it was not normal to see special characters. Special characters in this time period were both players had to agree to their use on the tabletop because special characters were considered to be maybe not overpowered, but definitely unbalanced in armies because they had a lot of stuff that nobody else had access to that was very, very strong. This got amplified in later editions of the game. Mass mutation, another fun one. So basically, you just start to modify a unit and the effects are not cumulative. So it's for one turn, you get one of these things. So it's going to be nothing or something. Now, it's a 1 in 6 chance of nothing, but demonic strength, resilience, or mutation are really, really good. But demonic aura can be useful, but if you did on something like Terminators, it was not very good. Demonic visage, yeah, that could be useful as well. So your minor psychic powers, you had a whole bunch of stuff around how these worked that were a lot of fun. And we'll talk about some of the other psychic powers in the gods entries later on, because, yeah, it was fun. In Universal Special Rules, so called Veteran Abilities back here, this was before USRs. Single rules for everyone of any faction. If you had Siege Specialists or Skilled Riders or Tank Hunters, no matter which faction you were from, you knew what that did. It saved a lot of micromanaging of putting special rules in every unit's entry, and it was really, really good. Demon weapons. So Darkblade was power weapon with +2 strength, and I think that was it. I can't remember if it was two-handed. Let me double check. No, it was just +2 strength, which doesn't sound great, but think about it on a Demon Prince. That's strength 8 striking at initiative. Yeah, it's pretty good now, because that's instant killing anything with 2 wounds. And also remember, 2 wounds is very rare in this time period. It's characters only, basically, that have it. Dreadnoughts are vehicles, things like that. Dreadaxe never have to roll worse than a 4+, regardless of relative strength and toughness values. Wounds from the Dreadaxe ignore invulnerable saving throws. Very, very strong weapon, but you get your normal saving throw against it. So it's a weird thing. Basically, the way that's designed to work was it was really good at killing demons because it was demonic itself, right? A thirst for souls. And it says up here, actually, especially partial destroying demonic rivals. Hence, demons didn't get an armor save against it because there was no invulnerable saves, and demons don't have a regular armor save. So it wasn't as good against regular dudes, but again, if you had this on a Demon Prince, you ignored regular armor saves. So the Dreadaxe became very, very powerful on things like a Demon Prince, because it'd be 2s to wound, no armor saves, right? Aether Lance, strength 4, AP3, assault 1. It was a flamer, strength 4, AP3 flamer, which was good. It was good. I found that you had to put this on a Chaos Lord with Demonic Fight if you wanted to actually get your points worth out of it, because you need to sort of get in, get out quickly, or on a guy riding a bike. So, tough choice. The Kai gun was the one I got a lot more use out of, because strength 6, AP3, assault 2. So it was like a slightly weaker in the strength, but better in the AP Reaper autocannon, or autocannon in general, I should say. And again, really, really good on a flying character. Not bad on a bike character either, because you would just buy a lower points generic Chaos Lieutenant, stick this on him, and use him to just be a pest around the battlefield, because it's like, they don't want to spend the points to shoot a guy who's just a single model, who's not costing many points himself, but they know that you're just going to harass them and pepper them with a couple of marine killing shots every turn for the whole game, and it puts the other guy in a really delicate spot as for how he's going to deal with that. The vehicle upgrades, I think the most useful ones in here were Demonic Possession and Mutated Hull. Parasitic Possession was pretty good as well, but it was, yeah. So essentially what you're doing was you were increasing armor and resilience on your vehicle by picking these ones, and that was what was really good about them. The Havoc Launcher, when it came out in this edition, was not very good at all. Strength 4, AP 6 with Heavy 2 and Blast was... yeah, it was okay. It was good on a Rhino compared to, like, Marines had Storm Bolters, Chaos had Combi Bolters, which are worse until you get really close with them. So, yeah, the living vehicle thing was, like, okay. There's a pretty cool one in Khorne that gave you a bonus, because it was covered in, like, saw blades. We'll get to that. All right, now the army list, very, very standard old school 40k army list. So 2 HQs, 3 elites, 6 troops, 3 fast attack, 3 heavy support. The kicker for this was there are certain forces like the Iron Warriors that could change this list up and sacrifice like a fast attack slot for an additional heavy support. And people bitched about it to no end because it was considered so broken. Compare that to current 30k and 40k and make of that what you will. All right, stat lines. So, Chaos Lord, this is your expensive character, and you can make him a sorcerer or a demon prince. Again, it's down to what upgrades you give him. As a guideline, a Chaos Lord with more than 50 points of demonic abilities can claim to be a demon prince and should be modeled appropriately. Again, fun. Fluff. It is trying to get you to play narratively. Also, look at the artwork. But you can see from the stat line, decent weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, wounds, all that across the board. Whereas compare it with the Chaos Lieutenant, 45 points, you're getting less options of war gear, you can't be a Lord, you can only be, Demon Prince. And you have less wounds. So the less wounds and the less points in war gear is the defining fact, and that's 15 points they've decided. I'd say 10 points would have been fine, but 15, hey, I'll take the discount. Again, very handy character. We put him on a bike, give him wings, give him a Kai gun. And if you really want to be funny, make him a sorcerer. Spend the points. Your greater demons. So all lumped into one category because basically the rules for greater demons in this time period were the same. It was the war gear where they varied. So they gave them different points because the special rules are so universal across the board and how you summon them. It was just a tidier way of doing it because it was like, well, you can work out the differences are. This is armed with this is armed with this, and this is armed with this. Ta-da! Chosen. Now, Chosen are interesting. You can make the Chosen squad with a Chosen and then the Chosen aspiring champion who's like a squad sergeant. But you'll notice it's 4 to 19 Chosen. There's nothing in there about like your limits apart from that, which is very interesting because Chosen in power or Terminator armor can be further upgraded to aspiring champions at 10 points each. It doesn't say you can only have one. It's 10 points each. So if you wanted to, you could spend the points and make every single member of your Chosen a Chosen aspiring champion. 27 points a pop. Get that extra attack. Why not? And you get the character rule. Same with the Chosen Terminator champions. Now, this becomes important because characters get war gear. So you can take your basic bitch Marines here. Well, they're not too basic. They're still decent. Leadership 10 Chosen. But turn them into characters. Now you unlock war gear. So now you come back up here and go, hey, I always thought my Chosen should have XYZ. Fill your boots on war gear. Okay? So a lot of fun to do that sort of thing. And you can see they already had some pretty good options of war gear in here. Also, again, killer artwork on the side. Oh, and a transport rhino. Most important thing. This is back when rhinos didn't just suck. Because there's no hull points in this edition. So you had to kill a vehicle outright. You had to get an explodes result with your anti-tank weaponry. And anti-tank weaponry was not very strong back then. Compared to what it has become in later editions, it's a lot weaker. Possessed Chaos Space Marines. So this is I think this was their introduction. They weren't really a thing in 3rd edition. It was 3.5 because of the way that the mutations rules kicked in this edition. So you got to get, it wasn't free per se. You paid the points for it, but you got to upgrade your squad with essentially pick a demonic gift that would normally be locked to a character. And then you also can give your aspiring champion, so the character in the squad, additional stuff. So gifts, that kind of thing. And because you're demon possessed, you also have invul save. This is very strong in this time period. Okay? It is not as strong in later editions of the game. This unit sucked for many editions of 40k. But back then, that ability to bring almost Terminator levels of resilience with a solid amount of tax, and Demonic Talons. Demonic Talons are basically lightning claws. So Demonic Talons at 5 points a pop made this at 27 points a model a very, very dangerous squad. Transportable and resilient. A lot of people may not remember, though, from that time period. Now, Obliterators, they were elites back then, not heavy support. And the other thing about them was no demon marks on the squad. So you could include them in your army, and I'm including some in my 3.5 retro futuristic army. I don't know what you want to call it. Again, awesome artwork. So I'm using the 30k Sat9, but I've modified them with Thousand Suns Egyptian crests, because Thousand Suns should never have mutants in their army. Unless it's like mortals. The Thousand Suns themselves are all either sorcerers who are immune to mutation thanks to the rubric of Ahriman, or they're immune to mutation thanks to the rubric of Merriman because they turn to dust. There's no two ways about it. So Obliterators don't make a lot of sense unless they're from some other legion or force that has joined the Thousand Suns. And that didn't feel right to me. So I put Egyptian crests and Aetherfire weapons onto Sat9 Terminators because they are an excellent size to use as counts as Obliterators, and they nicely match with the other miniatures. So that was a win. But yep, Obliterators, basically they morph any one of these weapons. Las Cannon, Autocannon, Missile Launcher, which only has frag, sadly. Heavy Bolter, Twin Linked Plasma Gun, Twin Linked Multigun, Flamer, or Power Fist. And they can use different weapons in different phases, so they may shoot with Twin Linked Plasma Guns and then assault using Power Fists, which is fun. Downside that came in later editions was they said that you may not fire the same weapon 2 turns in a row. It was what the next shitty codex, I think it was the Gav Thorpe one, fuckers, brought out, was like, oh, if you fire a las cannon this turn, you're not allowed to fire it the next turn. That would be too powerful. Oh, what about those Space Marine Centurion models that you bought out in 6th edition that are clones of Obliterators but for Loyalists? Because we can't give Chaos something without the Loyalists getting an ice cream sundae. Oh no, they can shoot their las cannons every turn. You motherfuckers. You fucking fuckers. Super chat from Absolute Moon. Thinking of snagging Sat9s off eBay just to make Obliterators. Should I ever make another 40k army, to be honest? Yeah, if you get them for a good price, I guess. The Sat9 Terminators have 3 times as many parts as I deem acceptable. Make of that what you will. But yeah, really fun unit and an elite's choice in this time period. So it gave you a reason to actually fill up on elites that a lot of other factions didn't really have, which I liked. Where Chaos really doesn't have anything that you're like, oh, I must take it, is fast attack this edition. So troops, yep, you got your Chaos Space Marines, and the way Chaos Space Marines were a bit better than Loyalists in this edition was you had the higher leadership baked in. So you didn't have a Nation No Fear, but you had innately higher leadership, and that was the trade-off, and that was fair. In later editions, they stripped you of the leadership, kept the points the same, and gave Marines chapter tactics. So by 5th edition, Space Marines could take a 10-man squad and go, you know what, there's an objectives game this mission. All right, I'm going to split my squad into 2 5-man squads so I can capture more objectives. And the Chaos Space Marine player is there doing the John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, the what the fuck's going on look that he gives. Yeah. See, this is when Marine players just started getting better treatment, was 5th edition. So they were decent, regular Chaos Space Marines. They could run when Loyalists wouldn't, but by the same and they could be run down. But by the same token, it was harder to break them in the first place. Now, your Berserkers, Noise Marines, Nurgle Plague Marines, the Thousand Suns are an upgrade choice to them. And this is very interesting because what you can do is when you upgrade them, they move from troops into elites unless you're playing an army of that. So if you're playing Plague Marines, you're playing Death Guard, they become troops. So if your model is led by a model with the same mark, you become troops. Awesome, right? You stay as troops. If not, if I'm taking Noise Marines, but the army is led by Khorne Berserker or Marked of Khorne, then those guys the Noise Marines would become elites only. So there's a trade-off there, right? Which I'm down with. Also, the art still rocks. This art still rocks. I'm sorry. There was also, you could take these marks and you could actually apply them. You could make Terminators out of the generic troops. So you could have things like rubric Terminators and stuff, which was a cool thing in this edition. You didn't get all the Terminator upgrades. It's weird how it works. I'll do a list building video where I actually make a list one day and I'll explain how all of this goes. Now, demon packs. Again, Bloodletter, Plaguebearer, Horror, Demonette. Just like with the Greater Demons, they found a way to combine them so that you could just have one set of profiles for all of them put into the one area of the book and then just differentiate it by the special rules and war gear. What an awesome, easy way to do it. Also, note the artwork. If this was Modern Games Workshop, these would all be cutesy, happy, laughing Nurglings. Yep. So when I complain about the way Nurgle is treated and people ratio me and shit on me on YouTube, oh no, they were always happy, cutesy, blah, blah, blah. I present to you Exhibit A. They were not. They most definitely were not always cutesy. They may be treating you in a certain way, but they're demons. They're evil. Look at them. They're not smiling, happy, cutesy, giggling, happy lads. Like, yes, Nurgle was seen as a fatherly demonic figure as far as evil demon entities go. Sure, because of the cycle of death and rebirth and such, but he's still a horrible, horrible demon. And yeah, and you see like early edition of like the Rotflies back before they were a thing, and yeah, they've changed from horrible demonic entities with like these glazed over rotting eyes and fly faces to now they're all smiling and happy and bubbly. And you'll see this especially with the Death Guard in general. Look at the Plague Bearers in here. Do they look happy to you? Have you got your sloppy bile pipers of the world here? No, it's a different feel. I'm not saying this to be salty. I'm saying it to explain how things feel so different from this era. And I like the Plague Bearer models from this era more than the modern ones, to be honest. I like them with these like rusting regular swords is more interesting than those weird, almost obsidian swords they give them now. Super chat from Absolute Moon. Crazy that demons should look evil, a wild concept. Yes, it is a very wild concept. Because, well, look at how Plague Bearers were made. It was plague victims who died suffering souls being reincarnated as an aspect of that suffering in the afterlife as a new servant of Nurgle. It's horrific. There is nothing happy about that at all. Yeah, and yeah, the children of Father Nurgle, the way that works here is they tend to find the Shadow Champions of Nurgle, and consequently an army may only include one unit of Nurglings for each independent character or unit with the mark of Nurgle. So it was fun. And the mischievous aspect of them is the unit of Nurglings cannot be trusted to hold an objective as they will inevitably wander off or try to damage it. Consequently, they may never hold table quarters or objectives. Yeah? So it's malicious, they're malevolent, they're like evil gremlins. They are not cutesy. Fast attack raptors. Just look at this artwork. The raptor landing, impaling his way through Akkadian guardsmen to land. Just fuck your couch. Straight through him. Yes, needless to say. And it's interesting, they're demonkin. They have demonic flight and demonic visage gifts, and they use hit and run because they've been in the warp and affected by it for so long that raptors have been mutated and warped. Like his feet have become like hawk's talons or raptor's talons, literally. His legs have changed their shape. It's horrific. Again, it's like once you've gone down this path, there's no coming back to the Emperor's Light. Yep. The way the helmets are with the coiling of pipes, almost like Angron's tendrils and the back. And you'll notice that these pipes aren't that current fetish they have where they're like perforated rubber tubes, which are just rotting away, that they just love doing on all the modern models. Yeah, they're not like that at all. These guys look menacing. Compare that to, who's that dude, Harkon World Claimer? Compare that to this. Yeah, and tell me which you think looks more intimidating if you were to get the model of it. Marine Bikers, so Chaos Marine Bikers and Demonic Beasts. So again, Demonic Beasts, like with the other demons, they're able to, or what they did with the like Thousand Suns and Plague Death Guard, you're able to condense it down. So Fleshhounds, Screamers, and Furies. The Screamers, I'm definitely adding into this Thousand Suns army. Yep, still got to bring them in. You still got to summon them. Demonic Flight ability and Furious Assault. They don't have the Melter Bombs thing. That was a thing that came in, I think, 6th edition. So they're no good at killing tanks, but I just want them because the Screamers are fun. And Initiative 5 was interesting because they went, you know what, these things are kind of brittle. 5 up invul saves only. They're Demonic Beasts. They've got to summon them, so they're hard to get on the battlefield, but they hit fast. Decently hard and fast. Yeah, okay, the Screamers don't hit as hard, one attack, but they're still cool flying stingray things, and the hit and run and all that, they're pretty good. Heavy support. All right, so Havocs. Havocs speaks for themselves. Super chat from Tansmans 3469. God bless you, Macca. You're an honest hero to the community, always keeping it real. Keep up the good quality content. I sometimes do miss the salt anyways. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the super chats. So, Havocs in this time period, you've got las cannon, missile, autocannon, heavy bolter, plasma gun, melter gun, flamer, which is interesting because they're a heavy support choice, but you could kit them out to be more of an assaulting force. So put them in a transport like a Rhino, and then just go in all guns blazing with melter guns, plasma guns, and flamers. You're just trading heavy support to do it. If you wanted to go for the shooting loadout, the las cannon, missile launcher, autocannon, heavy bolter, well, you don't have the plasma cannon, the Loyalists. You don't have assault cannons. Not that you could put them on infantry. You don't have the current sort of rotor cannons that they have in 40k now. It's a very mundane selection of weapons. But again, this is a time period where anti-tank was really good at just anti-tank. You didn't use las cannons to kill Terminators. It was a waste of the las cannon. They were one wound in this time period. It's not like now where 40k is bloated with multiple wound models everywhere. Marines are all multiple wounds, for example. Lame addition. Personal opinion. But las cannons back then, it was like, look, I've got 4 of them in my Havoc squad. Do I want to shoot a squad of Terminators, or do I want to try and kill that Land Raider, which is shooting multiple twin las cannons every turn of me? I'm going to go kill that Land Raider. That was the way your head worked in 3.5. If Terminators had 2 wounds in that edition, you'd have gone all in on las cannons because you're going, it'd be silly not to use las cannons or melter guns to do the work, because it'd be nothing. It's an incentives thing, right? With the way that they write 40k rules or Horus Heresy today. If you're going to make multiple units, which are tough 4 with 2 wounds, then suddenly you've changed the incentive to players to be bringing units which can kill 2 wound models instantly. And if you have long range and low AP, you jump to the top of that list. And then they become must-take weapons. Las cannons become a must-take weapon when you're fighting 2 wound Terminators with 4+ invulnerable saves, like in Horus Heresy, because they're so hard to put down. But when you're fighting against Predator tanks and 1 wound Terminators, what's wrong with taking an autocannon? That way, if they just roll a couple of 1s, you did the job. Like, 1 is a 1. You didn't have units full of Feel No Pain back then. Again, they're single wound models. So an autocannon or a heavy bolter can do it through weight of fire. That's how these weapons work. They were good at it. It was okay to take heavy bolters. And, like, it was dangerous if you're a Terminator squad to, like, if you have 5 Terminators and you try and roll up on a 20-man or 15-man, I should say, Fire Warrior squad, and you're in their rapid fire range, you better be sure that you're getting the charge off on them, because they are about to hose you if you do not get that charge off. And you're probably not going to make it. With, the Fire Warriors shooting in this time period is pretty good. The Chaos Predator, again, the artwork, like, need I say more? Let me zoom in on this. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's chaos. We don't get vehicles like that anymore. Yeah, Chaos Predator, in this time period, a decent unit. Twinned las cannon or autocannon for your main weapon, then of course the heavy bolter sponsons or the las cannon sponsons. And gifts available, demonic gifts and upgrades from the armory. Keep in mind, loyalist weapons in this time period are identical. So it doesn't matter that you're Chaos. Loyal Space Marines have things like Assault Terminators, and they've got Dreadnoughts, which aren't Berserk, which is nice. And they've got Whirlwinds, and they've got Vindicators, and you don't. But you know what? You make up for it by having greater demons and lesser demons. So it's a trade-off, right, between the two factions. And when they took demons away from Chaos, they never really filled that hole that was left in them as a faction. But Marines, they just kept adding and adding and adding to. So Dreadnoughts. I love me a Chaos Dreadnought. I haven't, at this stage, decided to put one in my Thousand Suns force. So Dreadnoughts here have this weird rule, Fire Frenzy. So you roll a dice at the start of your turn, and on a 2 to 5, Dreadnought's normal. On a 1, he just immediately runs d6 plus 6 inches towards the nearest unit, yours or theirs. Doesn't matter. He must assault them if he's able to, gets double his attacks, and just goes berserk. Very funny when it's a Khorne Chaos Dreadnought who's made it across the table and then pulls this crap and then charges a unit is hilarious. But when it's a Thousand Suns army like mine and you're playing a shooting force, he just immediately turns around, assaults your Obliterators or your Rubric Marines. Yeah, it fucking sucked. So what was good about it was putting him out of line of sight of your own army and then getting the Fire Frenzy roll. And then he becomes an awesome Dakadread because he fires double the shots. That's the one you wanted to get. But if he could see your guys, guess who he shot? Yep, your guys. Shoots the nearest unit. And there was no rules about if he couldn't damage it or anything like that. So, yep. If you couldn't do that, you couldn't shoot a unit because there was no one in your threat range, you got the Blood Rage instead and you ran forward that 6 plus d6. Yeah, not great. All right, Laz, the Land Raider. So the Land Raider in this time period is still that awesome artwork. Same Land Raider you get today if you play Chaos 20 odd years later. Interesting thing about it is you only have las cannon armament, but again, loyalists were the same. Okay? When loyalist Land Raiders in this time period were only las cannons as well. The only people that had the Land Raider Crusader were the Black Templars. And it wouldn't be until 5th edition that the Redeemer became a standard thing. And it was not till 5th edition when all of the Forge World variants became a thing. Chaos, for some reason, has only ever had the Godhammer pattern Land Raider, which is the twin las cannons, which is really bizarre because when they finished the Siege of Terra and fled, they corrupted the STL banks of the Imperium. So that's why the Imperium can no longer mass produce Land Raiders, because the STL for designing it was corrupted by Chaos. And the non-corrupted files were taken back to the Eye of Terror by the traders who can still produce Land Raiders. And this is the fluff behind why Imperial Guard no longer get Land Raiders, but the Space Marine chapters in 40k do. However, for some reason, Space Marines have all these myriad variants of Land Raider. And Chaos only still has the one with the 2 las cannons, despite being the ones you have the plans. None of that fluff makes sense. I just don't understand why, even to this point, they haven't gone back and rewritten Land Raiders to have multiple weapon options for Chaos. I mean, these days you can just put it down to they don't like the Land Raider anymore. It's an old model and they want to replace it with all the Primaris stuff and they just sort of got to keep it in production grudgingly. If they could turn it into a dinosaur machine, I'm sure they would happily do so. They just haven't found a way to ruin it yet. And they don't want to upgrade it and give you options for upgrades that they don't sell. They don't want to give you sponsons that they don't make and then have you shock horror convert it or buy some third-party parts. No. So the Chaos Land Raider was a brutal tank back then. You had to kill it. You had to get an explodes result. If you didn't get an explodes result, it just shrugged and kept shooting at you next turn. It was amazing. It was so powerful. Everyone wanted to have one. It was the centerpiece of your army to have one. So I have very, very, very fond memories of the Land Raiders from this time period. They were really, really fun. No, it did not have assault ramps back then. The thing is, though, in 3rd edition, you could assault out of vehicles directly into people. So access was different with them. It wasn't like later editions of... So in 5th edition, I think it was, they moved it to your vehicle, you had to disembark the turn prior to charge, or if your vehicle hadn't moved that turn, you could charge out of it. 3rd and 4th edition was not like that. You could charge out of them straight into people. And in fact, in 3rd edition, if you won your close combat and the assault phase was not over yet, someone else still had to fight, you could charge into another close combat and then participate in that. Like some crazy shit back then. Like close combat was very, very good in 3rd and 4th edition 40k. Defiler. This was the introduction of the Defiler. And it was interesting because it was kind of like a weaker Vindicator in that, it had the battle cannon. And this was still guess range. It's a guess range battle cannon. And you had the Reaper autocannon heavy flamer. But ballistic skill 4, but weapon skill 2. And these days they would write that the other way around. By 6th edition, it was, if you're demonically, operated, you're terrible at shooting, but you're good in close combat. Back then, they wrote it the other way around, which is interesting because it seems like it'd be really good at punching things. But the thing was, the Reaper autocannon was not very strong because it's 2 shots twin linked at ballistic skill 4, so it didn't really benefit from the ballistic skill. And your battle cannon definitely didn't because it was guess range. So the ballistic skill actually was not very good in this edition when it would become better in later editions, which is kind of ironic. And these days, or if they made the Defiler again, they would have given it a completely different stat line instead of its battle cannon, because that's just such an Imperial Guard weapon. Nowadays, they would call it something like the Defiler cannon, something like that. All right, so the Books of Chaos. These are a way of basically differentiating your Chaos forces. And essentially, if you pick, I'm running this god, like say I want to run Tzeentch, I lose access to Chaos Bikes, Chaos Raptors, and Chaos Havocs if I want to run the books of that god. And what the books of that god is basically a bunch of unique upgrades to that faction. So, this allows me to do the equivalent of playing Codex Tzeentch, or Codex Slaanesh, Codex Nurgle, Codex Khorne, and Chaos Undecided. And of course, Chaos Undecided is you get all your toys. The problem is you don't get the benefits of being able to put them all into, say, troops, for example, because your god, the guy leading the army, doesn't have the mark of your god, therefore you don't stay in troops. So things like Plague Marines move up to the elite slot. That's the trade-off. You get all the toys, you don't get them as easily. So which do you want? Favored units. These are a cool thing. So when you have the number of your god, 9 for Tzeentch, 8 for Khorne, 7 for Nurgle, 6 for Slaanesh, your retinues and packs that bear this number, the same number of as your sacred deity of your god, are favoured by the gods. Note that independent characters leading retinues are counted for this purpose, but followers are not. And favoured by the gods is a good thing to have, because it will have to do with how you summon units and such. You want to be favoured by the gods. Also, it doesn't like you mixing and matching marks because of the rivalries in your army. So there's rules around how that works. Like, it's very simple and it's all summed up in a page. Wonderful. Fabius Bile. So, as you can see, he's been failing for upwards of 3 decades now, but he's okay. He's okay. His points value is the same, but it's funny, at the start of the battle, you're going to roll, and it's basically, what version of Fabius did you get today? Did he screw up his latest steroids and make himself weaker or stronger? I don't know which one's the better one to get. Like the resilient Fabius, the roll of a 6, you got your money's worth out of him more, but hitting like a freight train Fabius on the roll of a 1 was also pretty good. So, choices. Yeah, hard choices. But picking at the start of the battle, after both sides have set up, but before the first turn takes place, roll a d6 for each enhanced squad and consult the table. So the enhanced, the way that works is you get to pick any number of Chaos Space Marine squads, which can be enhanced by his treatment at 3 points a model. So it's any number. You could do the entire army if you want. And then you roll on the chart for each squad, one by one. This is what you get. Ta-da! Now, it applies for the entire game. So if you roll badly, so be it. It applies to the whole game. But there's no real badly here. Like, Berserk Rage is not bad. Stable Mutation is fine. Created a monster, but nobody wants to see monsters no more. They want shady. Well, that's pretty good as well, right? So, take your pick. Like, it's all good. Fabius is a lot of fun to run in this edition. Alpha Legion. Guess what? You don't need Codex Alpha Legion. Here is Codex Alpha Legion. Ta-da! It has a page. You got Cultists. That was your unique thing that you got, which other factions didn't get. Why not? When it comes to demons, you can't normally rely on demons, blah, 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 because it was all about an infiltration, sabotage, messing with people behind the lines type legion. So the rules were written with that in mind. Demons, not happening for them, right? It's demon princes and possessed only, right? The only people who are carrying icons to summon demons are cultists, so it encourages you to use the basic bitch humans, who probably are chaos worshipping cultists, use them to summon the demons, but the Alpha Legionnaires themselves, chaos is just a tool. We use it if we need to, but we're not that into it. Infiltrators. So Alpha Legionaries, they can upgrade their veterans with infiltration skills and such. Any Alpha Legion Chaos Space Marine in power armor, on foot, may have the infiltration skill at a cost of 5 points for independent characters and 1 point per other model. So you can make the entire army just infiltrate. It's awesome. It's fun. I like it. And it's like, you're not getting things like Marines, that kind of thing, without them being in the elite slot. And if you are taking them, they're not Alpha Legionnaires. So they don't infiltrate. So like the army is self-policed in this edition, which is good. That's what you want. Iron Warriors. Only mark they can have is the mark of Chaos Undecided. Iron Warriors armies may not include any demons apart from demon princes and possessed Chaos Space Marines, although they're possessed unusual in that they harness bound demonic energy to power an array of cybernetic enhancements. Inevitably, Iron Warriors are all excellent siege fighters, so every model automatically has siege specialists at no points cost. This does not count toward the maximum number of skills they may have. Iron Warriors also get extensive use of Obliterators. The normal 0 to 1 limitation does not apply, so you can make all 3 elites choices Iron Warriors Obliterators, if you so desire. The Iron Warriors are characterized by their heavy equipment and may include an extra heavy support selection in return for 2 fast attack selections, using the standard force. And geez, people bitched about that, because they can take a Basilisk, that's not fair. Which they did. So Iron Warriors army can include up to 1 Basilisk from Codex Imperial Guard and up to 1 Vindicator from Codex Space Marines as heavy support. Now, the Basilisk remains Ballistic Skill 3, and the Vindicator's Storm Bolter is swapped to a Combi Bolter. Now, keep in mind, Marines can take multiple Vindicators already. It's just baked into their rules. But for some reason, when these guys do it, that's not fair. So, yeah, and you can put Serral Arms on your characters, which everyone who ran Iron Warriors did. Also, the art, still killing it. Come on. And yeah, you could make insanely strong DACA heavy Iron Warriors armies in this time period. In fact, the super chat, Piotr Jeski mentions it. 9 Obliterators, Vindicator Basilisk, 2 Autocannon Havoc squads, and a speed, so Demonic Speed, Dread Axe, Demon Prince, and yeah, very, very strong. But, you could do similarly brutal armies with regular Space Marines, with Tau, with Necrons. Like, anything in the 4th edition could do that sort of firepower. The problem was, this army was doing it, at a point in time where those other armies didn't exist yet with their 4th edition rules. There was no Space Marines with their mix and match chapter tactics, or the Guard with the 3 doctrines available to them. It was a lot more, like Tau was, the entire list was, let's see, Hammerhead, Devilfish, Pathfinders, stealth teams with the rotor gun things, broadsides with just rail guns, Pathfinders, regular Fire Warriors, Krutox, Ethereals, Crisis Battlesuits, and Tau Battlesuit Commander. That was it. That was the entire Tau range until 4th edition came, like Vespers and Piranhas and things like that, and Skyray. Yeah, so it was a big power curve. So it was brutal for those armies. I get that. It's that nobody ever went back and went, oh, okay, in hindsight of the other books coming that edition, it was actually pretty balanced. It was the first of this new range. It was very unbalanced. And it's funny that. All right, Night Lords. Again, I love brutal artwork. Valoran Deathblade sends a $10 super chat. Have a coffee for covering the best codex in Games Workshop history. I will after I have this red wine. Delicious red wine. This is from Campbell's Winery, my favorite winery. I'm there quite a bit, at least twice a year, which is a lot because it's on the other side of the state. It's like 4 or 5 hours drive away. Yeah, so Night Lords in this edition. It's stealth, skilled adept, additional cover saves. At a time when cover saves were not great, so it was a big deal. As well as having lots of Raptors. No 0-1 on Raptors, and Raptors are strong, as you saw earlier in this edition. So very, very good. Good choice. Pietro is also mentioning what the Marines were like in that time period. Marines at the time, Space Marine, 3 squads of 2 Assault Cannon Terminator squads, 1 normal, 1 regular, 6 Assault Cannon Land Speeders, 2x5 Las that'd be your Razorbacks, I'm guessing, 6, 3 heavy, 3 elite Dreadnoughts with Assault Cannon. Assault Cannon being the old Assault Cannon. Yeah, that was there was 2. So 3rd edition was the 3-shot Strength 6 AP4. 4th edition was the Strength 6 AP4 4 shots rending, I think it was, off the top of my head. And if you roll triple ones or quad ones, it jammed and you didn't get to shoot it the rest of the game. Off the top of my head, it's been 20 years. Yeah, the rendings on 6s to hit. Word Bearers. I fucking love this artwork. The most Word Bearers. This made Word Bearers cool. There was this, it was a Matt Hudson battle report. Some of you might remember it. It had Matt Hudson, Phil Kelly, a couple of the guys in the studio were playing. It was a 4-way battle, and it was Dark Angels, Word Bearers, Tyranids, and Orcs. It was a White Dwarf battle report. It's my favorite ever battle report from White Dwarf. And it was like capture this building, bunker, missile silo thing in the middle of the table. And it was, this 4-player free-for-all. If anyone remembers it, please let me know in the chat that I'm not a demented old man suffering from Alzheimer's. Well, I probably am. And there was a really nice Word Bearers army converted up for 3.5 playing in that game. And I remember it very, very fondly. Word Bearers were cool. The Demagogue ability here that you could upgrade was cool because it made a chaplain out of a Chaos Lord, basically, with the Accursed Crozius Demagogue combination. It was awesome. I really liked it. It was a personal icon mixed with the Crozius Arcanum, and a Rosarius all blended together onto your Lord. So you didn't have to put a chaplain entry into here for a Dark Apostle. You just made one out of a Chaos Lord, which is the way it should be. It was such a better way of doing things. Maybe that's the nostalgia talking. I don't know, but it was cool. So this is the closest you ever came to Codex Word Bearers. All right, now Black Legion and Abaddon the Despoiler. This stat line for 3.5 era is fucking strong. Like, insanely strong, okay? I really can't overemphasize this. Yeah, strong is an understatement. So this is the only things that are standing up to this was like Nightbringer, Avatar of Cain, Bloodthirster. Maybe come the next edition, like even the Nid stuff wasn't turning up to this. Like a lot of those Nid monstrous creatures would just die to this. It was insanely strong. But again, you needed permission to use him. So, yeah, trade-offs. And 255 points for a single model back then is a lot of points. And a limit of you're not taking him below 2,000 points. So you didn't have any of this crap like you had in 6th edition when people were taking Abaddon, Typhus, 60 Plague Zombies, and 3 Helldrakes, and 2 squads of 3 Nurgle Obliterators. That was a standard 6th edition tournament list. I know because I beat the snot out of one at an event. Play smarter, not harder. That was J. Lee Dowdsl's army. Like a prick of an army to play against. I beat it because I was running flyers, and it was a hold some objectives, I think, in like part of the battlefield. So I just flew around in flyers, killed all his Dakar, and then jumped out of the flyers onto the objectives near the end of the game, while killing the hordes of zombies with the pipe plates that the Fire Raptors were throwing out. The Storm Eagles. I had 2 Storm Eagles in my Raven Guard 6th edition. My army was Tactical Marines. 3 squads, 10 Tactical Marines, 2 squads of Assault Marines, of all squads of 10. I didn't min-max on like melter guns or anything like that. It was like, no, I had a heavy bolter flamer in each squad. And I had a squad of 10 Stern Guard in a drop pod with 2 grav guns and a grav pistol because there was a lot of Wraith Knights and Riptides at that time, and they were the best weapons for dealing with those. And I had Shrike. And that was my 1750 tournament list that took me to number 1 at the ADF comp that year, because it was a really balanced list. Fun fact. Anyway, getting completely sidetracked here, reveling in my own glory. And the artwork, again, still cool. Makes Abaddon look cool. Back when Talon Horus was menacing. And Chaos Space Marines were menacing too. Alright, Books of the Gods. This is like the best artwork, is the 4 covers that you're about to see. So if you haven't seen it, you haven't gone through this time period, prepare for a ride. In the chat there, it was Alex Boyd playing the Orcs, Matt Hudson playing the Wordbearers, Phil Kelly the Tyranids, and Owen Reese had the Dark Angels. Yes, it was. Spoilers: the Dark Angels won that battle. Can't have the Marines losing it, but it was pretty tight. And that was a nice Tyranid army too. That was was that the wasp colored ones where they were all like glossy black with like the yellow dots on the carapace. It was like a really, really good looking Tyranid army. All right, so already the artwork is a killer. Now, the Book of Khorne. If you are running World Eaters, you are able to use the Book of Khorne. That means you are limited. If you think back that couple of pages, like 8 pages back to this chart here, you are limited because you now can't take Raptors or Havocs in your army. The trade-off for this, though, is you get to take this stuff, which is cool. So, you can take things like the Blood Frenzy upgrade. Like, take the characters you can make in Khorne are insanely killy. I will immediately say it up front. Like, Khorne Lords from this time period are terrifying. Blood Frenzy Lord, getting additional attacks and fearless and must charge you, all that kind of stuff, like, is bad enough. But then when you combine that with other things from the Armory of Khorne, like the Berserker Glaive, this is an interesting one. You cannot join another unit, be accompanied by followers, or ride a steed. So typically, you give this to a guy that you basically turn into a demon prince because, yeah, you want him to be tanky enough to get there because he's on his own, right? He'll be shot a lot. He gets a 4-up invul save, which is really strong to start with. Again, this time period, the 4-up is the best you're going to get, except for Shadowfield and Dark Eldar Archons. So, 4-up invul save, and you double the base number of your attacks. So, you're going up to 6 attacks base. Now you're going to add your extras from your Mark of Khorne and your Blood Frenzy. So immediately gaining attacks here. Ooh, boy. This is a lot of swing. And remember, this is striking with ignoring armor saves at initiative. Very, very strong. Very, very strong. Winning twos, that kind of thing. And this is also not the best part of it. My favorite rule here is Cornate Chain Axes, which is similar to Orc Choppers in this time period. Best possible armor save you can ever get against them, even who terminate, is a 4+. Oh, it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Also, +1 to the artwork. Oh, fuck, the art's so good in here. I'm gonna come. The Cornate Chain Axe and Orc Choppers from this period both had this rule. It was an awesome balancer because it was like, hey, if you've made it to combat with your close combat army, you deserve to punch the snot out of whatever you hit. You've earned it, buddy. You got your Orc boys across the table into that Tau gun line. Have some fun. Rip those crisis suits to pieces, right? You got into those Terminators, cut the fuckers apart. It was fun. Like, and people didn't get salty about it. They weren't sitting there going, it's not fair that orcs can hurt my Marines. They're like, okay, it makes sense. It's a giant cleaver like the size of the Marine's torso. Yeah, it probably will cut through the armor. People were good about it, you know? All the upgrades in here are fun. You've got banners of your gods, so all 4 gods have their own banners. Destroyer turning you like equipping your vehicle so that it can actually run people over was hilarious. Again, Orcs had a similar thing. Orcs and Khorne would do the Predator Arnold handshake. 100% this edition. And you had limitations to the army, what you need to do to make a World Eater's army and tick those boxes. Also, Kharn the Betrayer never looked better. That artwork is, I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure this was the 3rd edition artwork. But either way, it's classic Adrian Smith and it's fucking hot. And why can't they make the model identical to that? Like, of all the models they've ever done in plastic, why do they fail in these models? They've never got any of the characters right. They've not got Lucius right, although he's one of the better ones. Ahriman, Typhon, or Typhus, or Kharn, none of them. Perfect. Is this not the most perfect Kharn the Betrayer pose and look? The proportions and everything. He doesn't have 5 bajillion skulls on chains hanging off him. He doesn't have Khorne icons every square inch of his armor, and yet he is just perfect. Compare this to the crap that is the 8-bound. Like, it's beautiful. It is fucking beautiful. Also, bonus thing about the artwork, in the background around him, the way the pages are demonic themselves, it just adds that little bit extra to the artwork in these books at the time period. Book of Nurgle, again, the artwork killing it. Like, and even the trophy rack, like the little trophy rack up the top there. Oh, yeah. Again, he's not smiling. I don't think that's a smile that he has going on there with the whole, like, part of his upper lip has turned into a giant rotted toothed jowl and his bottom jaw is falling off of his head and he's got a breathing tube running directly up into his mouth. Yeah, no smiles, no happiness here. Nurgle is, and like all the way that like the hoses are stapled into the holes in his flesh with the pustules and like the injected tubes. Just, Nurgle is so fucking good in this time period. Like looks wise and plus rules wise, really good. True Grit, one of the best rules ever down the bottom here, on the left. So bolters have a pistol grip, which means they can be fired with a single hand. This can take considerable practice and skill and is not normally encouraged. Models with True Grit, however, have learned how to use their bolters in this manner because the models had a plague knife in one hand. True Grit meant they had the bolt gun in the other. And it's basically used like a bolt pistol because this is in a time period when you fired a bolt gun at someone, you couldn't charge them afterwards because they were a rapid fire weapon. And if you were using a bolt gun against someone else, because of the rapid fire nature, you couldn't move to get into rapid fire range. So you were sacrificing your movement entirely in that turn to pull off rapid fires. These guys were just like, yeah, it's like a bolt pistol. And they were getting a bonus attack. Really good. Nurgle could kick in this edition. Light grenades, that was pretty fun. Made from the shrunken heads of those killed by Father Nurgle's favourite plagues. Any enemy unit charged by one or more models with blight grenades suffers -1 to hit modifier in the ensuing close combat. Rare thing in this time period to have things like that. The Nurgling infestations, Nurgle's rot, pandemic staff, all cool abilities, but take note the minor psychic powers. So each god had its own psychic powers going on, which added so much theme to them. And they were, I won't say they were all good, but they were all thematic. Like, you liked pulling them out just for the narrative of what they could do. And again, the artwork. There is no happy smiling, like, look at the Great Unclean One there. It's a monstrosity. Look at the Plague Bearers up the front. Do they look happy to you? Maybe. And the way the Death Guard Terminators look, there's no coral reefs, there's no crappy purple tentacles flying off them. They're just like rotted, bloated corpses. And it's fucking perfect. Speaking of typhus, that is the horrible thing I think when I picture Death Guard. That's what I want them to look like. And again, the Destroyer Hive coming out of his back is a hive. It's meant to be like those tendrils in Aliens. And the second movie, there was Alien, 1979, Ridley Scott. And then in 1984, there was Aliens. Yeah, and there's the Alien Hive. That's what the Destroyer Hive is. You can see these are not coral, weird, funnel-shaped things. These are like organic, like wasps' nests, right? When wasps make a nest out of like mud, right? And then they mix their spit with dirt and make these nests, and they plant them on the back of spiders, and they burrow into this. That's what this is. It's terrifying, yeah? And like the pustules is literally broken through his armor. It's his own rotting organs falling out of his armor here. It is so different to Saturday Night Fever typhus that we have now. And it's hideous, and I fucking love it. And it's the little touches. See, he's grabbing this human by the arm. His powered fist is crushed this guy's arm completely through. You can see it. His fist is closed. The arm is much bigger here than it is up here. Like, he's crushed his arm with the sheer strength of his hand, which makes perfect sense. But not only that, his arm has rotted from being touched by typhus. There's like pustules breaking out all over his arm, and the clothing is rotting off him. It's like whatever he touches starts to entropy and die. It's so good. Book of Slaanesh. They, again, have never nailed anything quite as good as this artwork with Slaanesh. I like a lot of the new Slaanesh releases, by the way, I should add, for 40k. They look good. They do look good. As good as this? No, it's pretty hard, though, because there's like this hermaphrodite, like one boob thing going on. The head, they haven't quite nailed that kind of creepy head. They've got good, pretty good flesh sculpts, although things like the ones where they have like the demonette mutated fleshy head with like the Slaaneshi symbol coming out of the forehead, those look terrible. This is nice. This is what you want to see. And even like the fingers having like nails or claws or talons in them, like, perfect. So Slaanesh, you've got the Warp Scream. You can equip your vehicles with Slaaneshi weapons. So Blastmaster, Sonic Weapon Arm, Dreadnoughts. It was all the go, right? Putting Dirge Casters and Warp Amplifiers on tanks, go for gold. Combat drugs. Yes, you could put combat drugs on. Very similar to the Dark Eldar combat drugs. Give you bonuses. It's a lot of fun. Lash of Torment, Sonic Weapons, Slaaneshi Minor, Psychic Powers table. So again, very fun, very thematic. What are cool abilities in there? You pick the ones you want from that table. And then Lucius. It's good artwork. It's solid. Lucius is pretty good as well. All right, Book of Tzeentch. the last of the books of chaos before we get into the artwork, the gallery at the back of it with like the miniatures. So, and I'll come back and I'll do another stream at some point later where I talk about like creating my Tzeentch army out of this book and how that works. That will be a thing. But drink in the majesty of what 1,000 Suns should look like. No mutations in him. Like the warp arm here is like a familiar. You can see it's attached to, not growing out of him. It's like he has familiars and they're on both arms, right? They're mirrored. They're matched. They are not chaotic random mutation like Games Workshop seems to think Tzeentch should be, which goes against their fluff. And that's why I say seems like it should be. Even though they own the IP, they don't quite understand the IP they own. This sorcerer has deliberately put on these hands. That's why it's a talon gripping onto his armor on both sides. It's matched, it's symmetrical, right? He is not mutated because he has suffered the rubric of Ahriman. He is immune to mutation. His psychic powers are greatly amplified by it. So, Tzeentch rules, really, really good. All the rules from this time period are good. Inferno mods work a bit differently. They're small blasts in this time period. Bedlam Staff is good. Coruscating Flames is okay. Yep, you've got Bolt of Change, which is basically a psychic multi-melter. Very handy. Doesn't have the 2-6 arm pen, doesn't have the AP1, but AP didn't really matter back then. Like, AP2 is as good as AP1. I can't think of any situation where AP1 was better in this edition because it wasn't added to the vehicle damage result you rolled. Thralls, you could take Wizard Thralls, which are pretty good. Basically, you could sacrifice them to use extra powers in a turn. So you paid points for to have regular basic bitch humans tag along and you just sacrifice them to cast more spells. Fuck, I love Tzeentch in this edition, which is why I'll be playing them. Disc of Tzeentch, which is pretty fun. And the art, just perfect 1,000 Suns art. So perfect, they still use it. And again, notice no mutations, no bird arms, no bird legs, no weird faces and half demonic horror heads or anything like that. You are 1,000 Suns. You are immune to the warp. Tzeentch is fine with you being immune to the warp because it thrills him that you tried to outdick him, and he's into that. And he dicked you anyway when he turned half your legion, well, actually 9/10 of it to dust. So, Warpblade, also pretty cool, but Tzeentch minor powers, actually some of the weaker psychic powers. You're better at doing them because you're going to have more wizards. But when it comes to psychic powers, I think Slaanesh is probably the strongest, then Nurgle, then Tzeentch out of this book. But hey, let's face it, you're going to try and pull a turning a person into Chaos Spawn trick anyway because fuck it, it's funny. I know I did. It was worth it every time it went off. And of course, Ahriman, which is still the greatest artwork of Ahriman to this date. And notice he's not on a disc of Tzeentch. He's standing on the ground, impaling a Space Marine. We're going to call him a Space Wolf because fuck him. With the bottom of his staff. Because Ahriman is still not to be trifled with. He is the same weapon skill as a generic Chaos Lord in this edition. He's not treated as weak because he is a sorcerer. Like, sorcerers of Chaos are dangerous. They are Chaos Space Marines with thousands of years of experience and the skills to back it. And he is very, very, very potent this edition, I will add. They talk about how demon princes, like this one guy, Periclitor, maybe Periclitor, something like that. Sounds like he should be a general for Alexander the Great, but how he rose to demonhood, and then again, some insanely cool looking art. Like, with this three-eyed dude going on over here, with, like, the flame weapon. Geez, that's cool. And then, yeah, like this mutant spawn thing with all these arms, and, just creepy stuff. And then, of course, the Demon Prince himself in the background. Why don't we get Demon Princes like that? Like, horrible, semi-mechanical construct dudes. Ugh. Good little summary of everything, by the way. Like, quickly shortcuts down the right here of all of the gifts, abilities, the works. Now, artwork. Let's zoom in a little bit anyway, so we can enjoy some of the gallery of the armies and units. So that Demon Prince was a model with this edition, and it looked pretty good. Remember, it was white metal, hand sculpted, early 2000s. When you see the model, don't judge it too harshly, because remember, those are the circumstances surrounding it. It was not this cool pose, though. You got Chaos Titans in the background, and Demon Engines. See down here. That's not Defiler, by the way. There are Defilers there next to it. So this is like those big Legions Imperialis style ones. We never got one in full scale. Of course, we got the guys off the front cover of the book. I like the current basic Chaos Space Marines, by the way. They're good kits. They're nice kits. So are the Havocs too. Alright. So, this is what was recommended to be a starting army. And yes, this is a good starting army for the time period. I will confirm. By the way, those ruins in the background and all these plastic trees, yep, 3rd edition starter box gave you those. That's what they're out of, the 3rd edition starter set. The Dark Eldar one. All right, so this is when they encourage you, literally the very second page of showing you models is make your own. Isn't that the most polar opposite page I could show you if I was trying to describe the difference between modern Games Workshop and this version of Games Workshop? It's like, here's a sprue of bits. Combine them however the fuck you want. Like, isn't that just great? It's like, it's encouraging you to convert because they're not like, oh, we need to sue 3D print file manufacturers. It's like, no, just have fun. Here's some markings. Sure. Make your own, though. Go for gold. All right, growing the army. So it's shown you what you should start with as an example here. 2 troops and a HQ. That's your minimum, right? Then it goes, hey, you still got those same 2 troop squads. You still got that HQ, but it's like, now you can add a Land Raider, add a Rhino for your squads, add a unit of Terminators. These are the white metal ones, very expensive unit to buy back then, and white metal Furies. But this is this is what you might build over a year, year and a half, right? And this is still not at the full size of a 3rd/4th edition army. This is probably about 2/3 the size of the average army back then. Average army, that is. They were bigger. They were also smaller. You know, it's not the size, it's how you use it. Then this is a full-sized army. So basically similar to what you have above, but you've got a big squad of bikers. You've got the Khorne Berserkers down here in the Black Legion livery. You've got the Dreadnought, the Predator, and of course the Token Rhino. So this is about the size that you would be expecting for like 1,200 points force, maybe a bit more, maybe 1,500 points, but that's about 1,200 point army, eyeballing it. And then, of course, if that army is also summoning in the Furies and the Bloodletters, it's definitely in the right points category for it. Also, Diaz-era Bloodletters, oh yeah, fucking hook it to my veins. How good do they look? Like, I like the sword Bloodletters, don't get me wrong. Going back to the plastic sword wielding Bloodletters we have now was going back to the 3rd edition era. 3.5 and 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy gave us these Diaz demons. But I fucking love the Diaz demons. Some people said they look too much like Beastmen. They didn't like the Flesh Hounds, and they didn't like these Bloodletters. I love these Bloodletters. I think they're the best. I'm sorry. And they're good. They're good scale. The Bloodthirst is perfectly fine in that scale. The only thing you need to change about it is make the head smaller and make the hands smaller and the weapons on them. It was just a limitation of making it in white metal and having things be strong enough in that time period. But the body proportions, the wing proportions is all perfect for the size of the Bloodletter. The Bloodthirster next to the Bloodletters stuff. It's perfectly big enough model. Doesn't need to be bigger than that. It was fine. It's just the scale creep over the decades. It's gotten to the point where, you know, Brutalis Dreadnoughts are bigger than this guy is. And it didn't need to go that way, but players kept encouraging it, which I find disappointing. Again, I love these Plague Bearers. These are my perfect Plague Bearers to me. They are just so thematic, and they're easy to build and paint because you don't have to assemble all these parts and clean all these mold lines. Like, you could just pull it out of the blister pack, a light sand on where the mold lines were up the sides of the body, glue them to the base and done. And I like the Nurglings of this period as well. They're great. They're very characterful. They're not these happy, bouncy. The new ones are good in that they fill out the whole base. They give you a nice big swarm, but it's a lot more to paint, and they're all a bit too cutesy for my taste. And I love that the Great Unclean one's just sort of like a fleshy mass in this edition, with like this horrible maw of a mouth. I still think I prefer the Forge World Great Unclean one that came a couple of years after this, but it's still really good and it's fun. Diaz era Demonettes. You know it, I know it. This is peak. I still got a bunch of these Demonettes. We built a whole army, Cat and I, a couple of years back for Heresy, for Ruinstorm for them. They're perfect. You don't need to change a thing. Nipples and all. Fuck it. They're perfect. And I like the Hellraiser Bestiality Sodomizer head, although I think I prefer the goat's head more from 3rd edition. Because they changed the head sculpt on all of the greater demons for 3.5. It looks really good though. Again, if you just made the head like 30% smaller and made the hand holding the sword and the hand that's pointing smaller so that they suit the size of the arms they're attached to, it would be really good modern sculpt. What lets it down is just those weird, janky proportions on things like hands and heads. Hand sculpted errors. My favourite horrors. Because Diaz spoke about I think it was Diaz sculpted the horrors as well. But he spoke about how they were sculpted in the White Dwarf magazine about Tzeentch that was the 5th book. The 5th White Dwarf magazine to come out on the 6th edition Fantasy Warriors of Chaos release, which is where all these sculpts come from. Because they released like a couple months before 3.5 Chaos. And he said, well, horrors are supposed to be these unknowable, etheric, horrible entities that are just constantly morphing and changing. And he wanted to represent that with, like, you can see it's got like the 2 mouths. That's because one horror is about to tear its way out of the other horror's mouth as it like reforms and molds around itself. Like when the T-1000 is dying in the vat of molten steel at the end of Terminator 2, it's like that. It's just morphing in and out of itself constantly. A shifting, shimmering mess of tendrils and demonic energy, just tearing itself constantly into new shapes and forms. A constant state of flux and change. That was what he was sculpting. And to me, perfect. I love it even now today. That is just such a... It's so thematic of Tzeentch. And again, I think it sells things better than the sort of trickster style, like devious gremlins of Tzeentch that they kind of are portrayed as now. I think this works better. Personal preference. Same as the Flamers. The Flamers before this, if you saw them, were like birds. They look kind of like weird birds with robes on. With... How do I describe that? They almost look like they're wearing boxing gloves for hands that flames come out of. These Flamers here are much better. But I do think that the plastic Flamers that came out after these are superior to these metal ones, these white metal ones. I like all like the maws, the faces, the mouths in the bottom of all the bodies, but I think the plastic ones in this instance are better. Same as the Screamers. The Screamers are great. The plastic Screamers are better than these metal ones. The metal ones didn't have any eyes or anything like that. I think eyes can be both more creepy and less creepy based on how they're painted. When the eyes are painted like glossy black, the dark soulless eye I think is really off-putting, and I love it. When they're painted with like pupils, I think it becomes cartoonish and comical and is less threatening. And a lot of the artwork on Games Workshop's site of things like Screamers, they're painted with the pupils, and it just makes them look like weird, funny, cartoony monsters, and it's not threatening at all. When you paint them with gloss black eyes, way more intimidating. But, you know, you may have your own preference on that. And, of course, the Greater Demon of Zinch, one of the first models I bought, they did 2 changes on this. They changed the head, so it has this sort of like Egyptian, you might call it a crest, like a crown, Egyptian crown sort of thing on its head, but also changed the staff. The staff was like a twisting column of flame previously, and then it became this like marbled staff with a Zinch symbol on top. So slight change there. All right. The Berserkers. So as you can see, these models were already 5 years old by the time of this book. And 20 years later, they were still being sold for like $80 for like 12 of them. Fuck Games Workshop or a shitty company sometimes. And that in the background, behind them, is the Chaos Spawn. This was the white metal Chaos Spawn of the period, and I really liked it. I did. I wish they'd done that in plastic, where it's just a fleshy mass. New ones are fine, or newer ones. They're still from 4th edition, so they're getting long in the tooth as well. The new ones are fine, but Chaos Spawn is something that really needs to be go back and reworked. And the old school Khan model, controversial opinion, looks better than the current plastic one. Speaking of, the Death Guard. These look, to me, both better and worse than the current ones. Better in the way like the chest is sculpted on them, and the way they have like the plague knife, one-hand bolter thing. That kind of thing I like. And like this Nurgly shoulder pad they have with like the pustule or the sunken holes in it, that I like. But the fact that it's just a lazy torso swap onto the regular plastic legs on most of them, there is one metal set of legs you get, which is this guy back here. The fact that it's just a lazy, like they're unmutated on the bottom half, I always disliked strongly. I felt that they should have done a proper kit for the Death Guard even back then. It was just very lazy of them to do this white metal upgrade kit. The Vrax era Death Guard were probably the best Death Guard we got. The Forge World Siege of Vrax ones. The Emperor's Children, so the Noise Marines here, you get away with it more having the upgrade kit on it. Because it's like, remember, Khorne got Berserker kits. This is a full plastic kit of Khorne Berserkers. Why they never did it for Death Guard, Emperor's Children, or Thousand Sons, fucks me. You think about it, it took them, from the inception of those armies, it took them nearly 4 decades to get us to the point where we've got them in plastic. Marines got an upgrade for Tactical Squad every edition. Every single edition, the Tactical Squad got an update. That's how much they dislike Chaos over at Games Workshop. So, the Chaos Hounds here are from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. This is back before round bases for cavalry and stuff in 40k, and they're an upgrade option. You could take Chaos Hounds for a character. It was one of the war gear options you saw above. Again, white metal, lazy upgrades for the characters, and in fact, the weird thing is they've not really used any noise weapons here. They've just put in the single, like, aspiring champion type model with the Doom Siren, I think it is. No, it's Blastmaster, Doom Siren, I guess maybe Sonic Shrieker, something like that. They've put that backpack guy in, and they've put like the champion arm here with the fleshy arm, and that's a Noise Marine upgrade head, this one here with the top knot. But that was it. All the rest of this is just generic Chaos Space Marines. Oh, and that's actually the champion head with the 2 conduit cables running to his eye and a speaker mouth. He's cool. Yeah, the laziness of generic kits back then was not great. Now, Thousand Sons, these look better. The generic Chaos legs are no good, but basically the entire upper half with like the shoulders, torso, loincloth, helmet sells it. So they worked. Weird thing here is you'll notice some of them have these bolt guns. It's blurry and hard to see, I know, but so be it. The bolt guns on a couple of them are white metal upgrades themselves that you had to very delicately super glue onto their plastic hands, and they fell off constantly. Ask me how I fucking remember. But those for some reason were white metal upgrades that they just added in. I don't know whether they felt it wasn't enough like bang for your buck if they didn't, or maybe there wasn't enough bolt guns supplied. I can't remember why, but very odd choice. That you got some white metal arms and some white metal bolt guns in the kit. Maybe there wasn't enough bolt guns supplied. And the sorcerer was entirely metal, and he actually is a resculpt of another Chaos sorcerer, which may pop up later. And because that's what they did. They used to take a model, they'd make it, and then they make 3 or 4 alternate versions of that same model where they just changed weapons, changed the head, and then added like a different book or set of grenades onto his belt. And that's how they did all the characters for all the factions back then. Like, if you remember the 4th edition Imperial Guard release, for example, like the Imperial Guard captain is just the same guy. One has a power fist, one has a sword, one has a las pistol, something like that. And it's all the same model, just slightly resculpted. That's how they did it, because they had to hand sculpt everything. It's not like now where you have AutoCAD. So, Blender, Fusion, whatever sculpting software you want to use, ZBrush, and you just cut and paste assets. Like, no, you had to physically make every part that you put on a model. So you didn't just make parts for no reason. You had to want to make the part and have the time to do it, and then make a mold of it. Word bearers, very generic-y. That's just the regular generic Chaos Space Marine squad box, painted red. For the Iron Warriors, at least here, there is an Iron Warriors head upgrade set. They've got a couple of them, like this guy with the Viking horns here and the one up the back, the Sergeant. But also this model, they've not made a Warsmith quite as good as that 40k since, have they? I think the Warpsmith, none of the versions of the Warpsmith have been very good compared to that. That Iron Warriors character there, with the weird sort of robotic power core servo arm combo he has going on there, looks really, really good. It just suffers from age and posing, and it's 25 years old. What do you want? But if you redid that with modern sculpting technology, you could make a really kick-ass model or really kick-ass conversion doing that. Night Lords, again, just a lazy which is weird. It's a lazy reuse of the same plastic box set of 8 Marines that you got. I know 8 is a weird number, but that's what they picked. Marines got 10, Chaos Space Marines get 8 in a box. But it was $5 cheaper, trade-off. But Night Lords had a helmet upgrade set and a shoulder pad upgrade set. They just didn't use it in any of this artwork. Stuffs me, why? The Alpha Legion here, not really very blue looking, are they? They are, like, they're painted storm blue with blue ink, and you can see like the blue ink, a bit of it on like the chainmail here around his like loin. Yeah, let's just say there weren't a lot of colors in the Citadel range back then. It was like 32 colors or something. It was not a lot of colors in the standard paint range, so I can kind of forgive it. Renegades. This was Red Corsairs. This was Red Corsairs back then. They were painted kind of like Deathwatch. You were in your own chapter livery, but then you were chaosified. Like, you had these red chaos stars and stuff over your original iconography. You literally defaced the armor of your parent chapter, which was the real sacrilege. That was more sacrilegious than repainting your armor entirely. It was considered very faux pas. It wasn't until 4th edition's Codex, when they made Huron a character and made him a real crux, that they made the Red Corsairs color scheme that you all sort of know today. The Red Corsairs back then were renegade chapters with defaced armor. And there were no rules for them, except for in chapter approved, which, I've got all 4 chapter approved books. Colin gave them to me, so I might wheel those out one day. Thank you to Colin as well. And again, sorry about the models. Okay. Different paint schemes for Chaos, which is fine. All right. Chaos Land Raider. This was fucking sick. The time period where this came out, this was fucking sick. The like Necron spikes and all that was a later edition that came with, I think it was the Chaos Rhino. They brought out a new Chaos spiky sprue. The original sprue that you got for Chaos had these like gargoyle heads. You had 8 different ones. You had the sort of short snub nose ones, and the long nose ones. And you cut off the ends of your barrels on your tanks and you glue those on in their place if you wanted to. It also had these chaosy, like square plates. There might be one or two floating around. If I see one, I'll try and point it out. These, there you go. Here you go. Okay. So these plates here, I know it's a terrible picture because it's a scan of a book from 25 years ago, but those plates all had like different like screaming faces and things like that and chaos symbols on them. And you stuck them onto the front of like the second edition plastic rhinos. That upgrade sprue was already long in the tooth and a bit like chonky. Like look at the chains, they're pretty chonky by this time period. The third edition, when they came out with the Mark II Rhino, the Mark II Rhino is the one that is still in production today, 25 years later. They brought out a new spike upgrade set that they put in there. So by combining the two sets together, you created this. And I think that looks great even today. Okay, if you did it again, like now, you would 3D print it, or you'd get rid of this big chain here and put some nice, fine, delicate, like jeweler's chain in there instead. But like the gargoyle head gun barrels, they look great still. The Chaos smoke launchers look kind of menacing. The spikes are perfect for the vehicle. I like it. I think it actually holds up. Chat, you let me know what you think. So, and yeah, like the Tau Fire Warrior head and the Necron head on the spikes, again, that is a direct result of those resculpts that came out in these kits. Speaking of the Destroyer Vehicle Rhino, this is like Killer Can arms with the saw blades attached onto a Marine Rhino to represent a Khorne Rhino. How fucking sick is that? A Rhino that could actually run down units, like just driving your tank into the other army. What is more narrative than that? Like, talk about having fun. Also, making your own terrain out of just bits. Toothpicks and bits. Highly encouraged back then. We've got this sort of diorama-y thingy here going on with like, it's kind of Tzeentch themed in that like, yeah, there's horrors and flamers and screamers and a lot of change, but really it's just Black Legion stuff. It's fine. That sorcerer there, which you can't really see well because he's so far in the background. Yeah, identical to the Thousand Suns squad sorcerer, just slightly resculpted. And then there's this really cool siege going on of a city. And this is where you get a real mix of stuff because you said you don't have enough modern models to fill it out. So if you look at the back up there, you can see the old school Predators and Vindicators in white metal. So they're plastic hulls, but with white metal for the guns on the front of the hulls, white metal for all the sponsons. Yeah, old school rhinos up the back. And then you've got the more modern stuff up the front of the shot, like that's a brand new Rhino up here. That's an old school Predator back there. New Vindicator there. New when this came out anyway. And then you got like white metal Cadians. Those are the white metals. That's how old this is. White metal Cadians. The original Griffin mortar. Holy fuck, that is going back. But how cool is that? That's not all Games Workshop Citadel brand terrain, is it? It's fucking foam that someone carved and glued plastic card to and Pringles cans and... Oh, but how good does it look? That the Iron Warrior is breaking into the city, like... I'm sorry, that's just perfect. Like, I would sit there when I was a kid, because I was like 14 when this came out. Yeah, I reckon it's 14. So, and I would sit there and just take in every detail, just staring at model by model, one by one, drinking in everything going on in this page. And then, this is the time period of this, the thing to do to win painting comps was these little stripes. You can see them here, like striations, like muscle and flesh going across the miniature. That was how you won painting comps. And you look at these are Golden Demon winning miniatures of the day. This is, people who underrate their painting abilities because there's so many phenomenal painters out there. Just remember, many of you watching this video today would be able to outpaint the people who were winning golden demons in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Just remember that. You're better than you think you are. It's just the people who are really good have moved those goalposts a long way since. Cool conversions and stuff. I had that Power Fist, by the way, and I never liked it. The 4-finger Power Fist always used to like annoy me on an obsessive compulsive level. But these are all white metal, by the way. These are all white metal conversions, so these are not easy to convert. Like, he had to sit there and green stuff this model to make it work, right? He had to sit there and make this barbed wire on the miniature, and painting with the technology of the time, like, those are well painted miniatures even today. At the time, they were incredible. Who was that? Victor Hardy. Yeah, Victor Hardy, Canadian. And the Demon Prince, that's the old school Demon Prince without wings. So, he came with wings, so that was a hell of a conversion. That's all white metal. So he converted that white metal miniature to actually be tearing the skeletal marine out of the Dreadnought sarcophagus. Nowadays, there'd be a big scenic template diorama base on it. Back then, it was just, you just stick him on the base the Dreadnought came with. Good enough. Champion of Khorne, who was literally just a blood juggernaut with Khan the Betrayer's body just slapped on. But I love the axe. The axe looks so fucking good. It's like 2 plastic Chaos Fantasy Warrior axes stuck side by side on a brass pin. And it works. It works fucking great. Yeah. Eye of Terror, bit of Cadia, fluff, and then finishes the book. So that was 3.5. And yeah, I'm going to build a list of Tzeentch soon. So I'll do a video on that. Next one of these I'm going to do, though, I will do the Tyranids. Yeah, 100%. I'll do the Tyranids next. We'll go through that book. Although the PDF I've got of that book is a little bit ass backwards. It's like they took the first 20 pages of the book and put them at the end of the PDF. I don't know why. It's a bit weird. Also, the mound of corpses, the Demon Prince on top. Chef's kiss. Do they actually, I don't remember seeing that Demon Prince. He came out with 3.5. 100% came out at 3.5, the Diaz Demon Prince. But I don't remember seeing a picture of him in here. That's funny. So, yeah, what a great book. Just the art throughout is just absolutely slaying it. And just, it's fantastic. What a nostalgia trip, hey? And I've put this into the nostalgia trip playlist because I couldn't think of a better playlist to actually put this video into. And there's a little bit of bitching about Modern Games Workshop in it, but do you not see, like, if you... This is a quick... There'll be people in this audience watching, I'm sure, who were not playing this game 25 years ago. Okay? If you are, please make yourself known. If you've come in like the last 5 years or 10 years, you wouldn't have a clue about any of this, that this was how you built armies, what the kits were like, even if they were on paper inferior to what we have today because there's so much more metals and stuff. This style of chaos and the themes and what the books encourage you to create is so different. So when I bitch about Modern Games Workshop and how it's inferior, this is what I'm comparing it to in my mind. This golden era. Now, you may still think it's inferior, and there is nothing wrong with holding that opinion. My opinions are not sacrosanct. But does it make more sense where I'm coming from when I shit on Games Workshop now, if you're not familiar with this time period and you see what was? That's like literally the first page in the showcase section is how to just convert anything in your army however you like. It's encouraged on the very first page. Like, hey, here, just make shit. Yeah. When did Dawn of War Winter Assault come out? That would have been like 2008, something like that. So yeah, like half a decade after this. This had already outdated by then. Another codex had taken place. Yeah, the company was so differently run back then, and the style, the artwork, the war gear selection, it was encouraging you to make it your own thing constantly throughout this book. And it was giving you this cool artwork and, encouraging you to do so throughout. Like, hey, make this, make the army however you want. And it did it all in one book. And it had demons in there, it had marines in there, it had all the different gods in there, it had all the Chaos Legions in there, all of them. And they weren't sold to you as nickel and dimed additional codexes. That's the other wonderful thing about it. It wasn't like, oh, well, if you want to play Khorne Berserkers, you got to go and buy the Khorne Berserker Codex. No, it's in here. Help yourself. Have fun. Here is the way to build it the most thematic as you want. Or, you know what? Don't build it that way. You miss out on a few buffs, but you can build it another way. What a great time. What a great time. And yeah, this war gear list, it's not as big as, like, you remember it when you think about it in your head. You think, oh, it's hundreds of items. It's not. It's like 50, 60 items, but it's still a lot. Still a lot for what it gives. And when I do Tyranids next, like the way Tyranids worked, we kind of looked at some of that on a Grimdark Therapy episode on Kaifa's channel a little while back. When you see it, you're going to be like, holy shit, are they different to now? So, yeah. So when I crap on Games Workshop, it's because this is what I'm comparing it to. When I talk about how something doesn't look right for Chaos, this is what I'm comparing it to. Like, it doesn't look right compared to this. It may be right for what Chaos is now, but this is just chef's kiss. Anyway, I think that's it for the stream. I think I got all the super chats, so that's good. As I say, next time around, we'll look at Tyranids. Then either Guard or Marines after that. I haven't picked yet. Then probably Tau and Orcs, and then Eldar, then maybe Necrons, Grey Knight Sisters Battle. That's probably the order I'm going to do them in, but I would like to do some of these last because I enjoy talking about this more and reminiscing than I do just yelling into the void about how new models suck, because here at least I can give you a comparison of what is awesome and why new stuff might not hit the mark for me, and I think it makes more sense in this context. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Everyone who came to the stream and interacted, love it. I know I didn't get around to replying to too many comments. I'm sorry about that, but it was fun. And leave any additional comments below the video, especially if you rewatch it. Give me your thoughts below about what you like and what you hate about this period and this codex and that kind of thing, or which book you really want me to cover from this time period that's also worth a look in. Like I want to do Medusa 5. That is one of the books I would like to cover from this time period because it's another one I have. I basically only going to cover books that I own. So when I show you the PDFs, it's no different to me showing you the book I physically own. Chapter approved, same thing. I'll show those books and give you some insight. That's it. Love it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.